So we had the choice between cheap and legal, and we were on a budget, but we also didn't like breaking the law, so we had hemmed and hawed over it for a while, and we were on this backpacking trip through Eastern Europe in January, and we went for legal, which didn't help us at all. And the choice was whether to go for the cheap boat or the legal boat to take us from Italy to Greece. And we chose the legal boat because we didn't want to have any problems at the border. So we had bought our tickets, we're staying at this hostel, which was very cheap, and we got accosted by the hostel owners. And they were trying to sell us this and give us massages and have sex with us and all sorts of things. And I was like, oh, I'm so tired, good night. And my friend was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I didn't see her for another 4 hours. So we were mad at each other, and we had to get up at 5 in the morning, and we got on the boat, and it was freezing, freezing cold, and it was dark, and you couldn't see anything, and it smelled like gasoline, and we were like, oh, we hate this trip, this is the worst. And our packs, we didn't know how to pack, so we packed like 90 pounds each, and we're like, this is the worst trip ever. And then the sunrise started to come up, and it kind of made it all worth it. And we're like, okay, it's gonna be great. And we like ran around in Greece for a minute, and we watched a Greek wedding, and there was breaking glass, and we got marooned on a kayak in the middle of the ocean on this, and I really had to go to the bathroom, so I pooped on a rock. It was very exciting. But that wasn't the emergency. The emergency came when we got on the train. We were going to go to fun countries we had never heard of, like Bulgaria. And we got on the train, and we're like, this is great, it's a sleeping train, we don't even have to pay for a hotel, more in the cheap category. And we like bedded down, and we were freezing, and we couldn't sleep at all, and we were like, oh, best trip ever, we love it. And then came we came to the border of Bulgaria, and then came, everyone's passport had to be checked, and we pulled out our passports, and, you know, we're innocent Americans, and this was before 9/11, so everyone still thought that. And we were, you know, just handed our passports, and there was a lot of grumbling and mumbling, and they left with our passports, and we're like, is that normal? Do they? Well, I hope that's okay. And so we waited for another hour, and they still hadn't come back with our passports, and we were beginning to think, like, what if they totally were just, I mean, we don't know what Greek passport officials look like. Maybe they were totally just shamming us, and they took off with our passports. And we're like, at this moment, like, applicating their pictures over ours, and they were like now 21-year-old females, you know? So we were like waiting and waiting, and finally they came back, and they're like gesturing and yelling at us in Greek, and we don't understand because it was Greek, and we didn't speak Greek, and we were like, we don't know, and so they're like, come with us, and we're like, okay, and we're like, should we bring our bags? And they're like, no. So we like leave, and we think we're going to the front of the train, and we go off of the train, and we think we're going into the train station, and we go through the train station, and we think that we're gonna go into some office, and they take us into a police car. And we get in the police car, and we start driving down the highway, and we've been driving for about 15 minutes when I begin to think, you know, I have no passport, I have no luggage, no bags, and pretty much nothing that identifies me as like a legal human being here, and we're just driving down the highway, like away from the train where all of our stuff is, and we're looking at each other like, what did we do? What did we do? So we get to the passport office, and they're throwing their hands up, they're yelling at us in Greek, like, stampa, stampa, where's your stampa? And it turned out we never could find, off of our legal boat that we had taken, we could never find the office from Italy to Greece how to get our passport stamped, so we're just like, well, I guess there isn't one, we don't know. And so we get into this embroiled battle, and they're yelling at us, why don't you have any stamps? And of course, the day before, we had thrown out all of our receipts that proved that we had been in Italy, and they were just yelling, and we were like, we don't know, we were there, and we couldn't find it, and I'm trying to speak to them in Italian, and finally they're like, Americans, and we get back in the car, and we drive back to the train station, and we get back on the train, and our stuff's all still there, and the train like has been waiting 2 hours for us, and it takes off, and it turned out to be fine.